Okay, John Wertz here, Montgomery County Tea Party. It's December 5th at 10 a.m. We're here with J. Max Sanders. He's run for re-election for Justice of Peace 3. And with me are Larry Rogers, Kendra Yamaguchi, Lana Horde, Bob Bagley, Luis Pedraza, and Kenneth Ernest. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
As we talked about on the way in, if you want to take up to 5 minutes to get started, uh, tell us a little bit about yourself and run for reelection, and we'll go around the room for Q&A. I'll do a timer here for you on your opening, as well as when we go around the room with questions, and
Sure.
get 2 minutes on that.
Okay.
The floor is yours.
There you go. Thank y'all for being here. As y'all have done this before, this is a process that is critical to vetting candidates when they run for office. I've been on this backside in other organizations, and you truly get to see some people that know what they're doing, some people that don't know what they're doing, and some people that you go, hey, they may not be the best candidate now, but they've got some good potential, and we need to keep them on our radar. And so I really appreciate what you guys are doing and how you're going about the process. Um, like I said, my name is J. Max Sanders. You can call me J Mac. Running for Just the Peace for Precinct 3. I've been in the job for, shoot, uh, just shy of 11 months. And it's been an amazing experience. Rarely do your life experiences allow you to be in a job where you take all the experiences you've had professionally and personally, and it puts you in a job that's really perfectly matched for you. And that's kind of this job. Been a small business owner, still am. Uh, 5 children, wife, been married for almost 19 years. She's been in the Woodlands since the 90s, so almost an original for those that are still around. Um, and went to Baylor for undergrad and went work in Washington, D.C. for 2 U.S. senators. Some of these things that are in my questions, so I won't necessarily go over the things that are already there. My resume was attached. It couldn't fit in that little box. But nevertheless, the campaign's been interesting. It's been fun. I'm enjoying it. I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy getting to know people, and that's not just cliche. At the end of the day, I'd like to think that I can relate to people fairly well, in that we're all individuals. We're all sinners. We're all hustling it, and that's what brings most all of us in common is when we start to get a little vulnerable about where we've come through life and what's going on next. And so that's why I like to get to talk to people. It's just, hey, how's it going? How was Christmas? How was Thanksgiving? Was it what you wanted it to be? Did you get to meet expectations? Or was it the same family drama you had last year? All those different things. I'm let you guys go ahead and get to questions. Looking forward to it. Let's go.
All righty. Thank you for that.
Yep.
Let me reset the timer here. Okay. Um, First question was, why are you seeking this bench? Of course. And then what 3 primary goals do you plan to accomplish if you're elected? You said you're seeking a second term. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, you appointed, like you said, 11 months ago. How many terms would you uh, plan on uh, serving?
If elected, at least I guess 2 full terms in addition to the 2 years. There's some things I want to get accomplished. I don't know how long it takes to get those accomplished this year. Some of them are fairly large from a size concept, but when I feel like I'm done making change and somebody else needs to bring some energy in to kick it to the next level, then I think that's an appropriate time to do it. A lot of times, um, you get burned out or you get so familiar with a position that you just stay there because it's easy, and you just start going through the routines and go through things perfunctory. But every day that goes by, I'm probably thinking about it. Probably every 2 or 3 weeks that goes by, something pops up that I say, okay, this is going to take some time, but it needs to be addressed. We need to find out what is it going to take to get it modified. And a lot of these things are procedural. They're back in where legislation that manages and creates how things operate is off a little bit in a couple places. And if you can bring that bridge together, you start to create some efficiencies. There's some advocacy things uh, that that I'm seeing that I'm not crazy about in the debt claim world. I'd like to get a lot of the stakeholders together and just say, hey, what's going on that y'all are what that's making y'all do this? Um,
What was the word again?
in the debt claim.
Debt claim.
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
Okay. I want to go to Bob next, and then we'll Kenneth and Luis.
I'm going to stay on that
that first topic.
Mm-hmm.
What is bring the speed of small business to the JP court?
Mm-hmm.
That
Sure.
answered in your question here. I don't understand that.
Absolutely. Um, well, justice court by nature is in the judicial system, which is inside of the government, and the speed of government is slow. It's inefficient. It is. There's a lot of people trying to protect themselves all the way around, and whether that's a different department head somewhere or it's a different organization, whether that's an outside organization, small business moves at a very quick speed. If you need to make a modification, you do it. You do it right now. You implement it because you own the business. You have the power to do it. Um, I needed to get a. I was that when you typically when you get elected for office, there's a certain amount of money that is allowed to. Hey, you have the new position. Here's some money. Get your printer. Get your couch. Do what you do to make your place familiar for the amount of place you're going to spend a whole bunch of time. It, the perfect example. I tried to get a printer, a color printer for in my office, so I wasn't walking around to go to get a color picture for a piece of evidence. And the process was, well, we got to go through purchasing. We can't buy it straight from here. And I'm like, it's at Office Depot on discount right now, $150 off. Let me go right there and get it. And you couldn't. That process didn't exist. And so it's kind of they're silly mechanical things that in the event of trying to save $27 through a government purchasing contract, we lost. Yeah, we lost 150 to save the $38 in taxes. So bringing that speed of you see a problem, you make a course correction now. You don't have to go ask 15 people to get permission who have really don't have a good reason to say no.
So how do you fix that from a JP position? Because
Sure.
that's government procedures.
No, it's government procedures. So a perfect example also. Um, as of not too long ago, I was somebody that reached out and said, "Hey, I tried to submit some evidence. It got sent back to me. My answer on a case." And I said, well, "I don't understand. Let me look into it." And I went and talked to my clerks. And at the end of the day, the reason it did is because it came in color. The evidence came in color, and the resolution was too high. And the it was they were being told to send it back, lower the resolution, and make it black and white. Um, I said, "There's no way you can appropriately do justice when I'm on the bench and somebody wants me to make a determination between the red house next to the blue car in front of the white shades, and it's all black and white. It's impossible." Or the tattoo that was on somebody's arm, you see the red Christmas tree. Well, is it red or is it black or what is it? It's black and white. Nevertheless, I lead that into I've gotten that changed by pushing pretty hard to say I can't do my job correctly. Excuse me. I can't do my job correctly if I don't have access to color and my staff doesn't have access to color when we're in the courtroom and I'm asking for information. So we have two printers in the office, and I said, "Hey, let's get a quote for the contract we already have and change that from black and white to color." And they said, "Okay, well, we got to go through purchasing. We got to ask them." I said, "No, you don't. Call the sticker on the vendor on the back of the machine and go directly to them. If ultimately we make the conclusion it's cost effective, we can go through purchasing to get it done. But if we have to go through this department for them to relay it to that person, who I may get on their queue list of other people to call back." And so ultimately we found out that for $70 difference a month, we can change this printer that's a commercial grade printer to include printer ink and everything's color and all the clerks can print to it. But we're in the middle of a contract and they're saying we won't do it. Well, guess what? If you go talk to somebody, you be reasonable. But the people that are negotiating on my behalf don't have the same vested interest in productivity that I do. And I understand everybody has to protect their own interests and that's their job. But at the end of the day, I've got to be able to overcome that and say, "Hey guys, we need to get this done. And this is why."
So I apologize, I don't have everything in front of me. What was your undergrad degree at Baylor?
Political science and a whole lot of business hours. couldn't get a real estate degree because it was I had the liberal arts school, but I graduated with over 30 hours of business school courses.
Gotcha. And did you attend law school?
I did attend law school.
And you graduated?
I did not.
Did not get your Juris Doctorate?
Mm-mm. No.
Okay.
I did pass there's two bars. There's the multi-state bar and then there's the ethics bar.
Okay.
I did pass the ethics bar.
Gotcha. Have you just really curious? Have you the JP can perform marriages, correct?
Correct.
Has have you performed any same-sex marriages, or will you?
I have not performed any marriages at all because of that. Um, that's an area where I don't want to have to make that distinction, and it's not worth the spread. I'm not an ordained minister. I understand this is a government function as the administratively that I'm doing, but at the end of the day, I'm gonna any marriage ceremony that I would perform is gonna have some biblical references in it. One man, one woman, equally yoked, leave and cleave, some basic concepts, and so I've elected not to do them as a whole because can't do one, not going to do any of them. I've learned that there's a need for that actually. Um, we probably get around 200 calls a week for marriages.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just
I had no idea it was that kind of number.
wow.
And so
Me neither.
there's a lot of people. Well, and specifically around in Montgomery County, a lot of other judges don't do them either. And so you start shrinking the pool that will by that restriction. I've learned recently that there was a Supreme Court decision that took away the sanction process if you don't do same-sex marriages for justices of the peace, and so that has changed my perspective on being able because I didn't want to get sanctioned for not doing it. I didn't want to go through the being, I don't know, for lack of a better phrase, discipline for holding up my faith. So at the end of the day, just wasn't going to do them. So I haven't started doing that because I'm in the middle of this, and I also wanted to get to learn the job as being a judge sufficiently as well before I went down that path.
So no JPs are doing same-sex marriage in Montgomery County. Is that what you said?
No, I said not all judges are doing weddings.
Oh,
So
okay.
I don't know if those that are or not. I couldn't answer that. I've not asked them. But I just know some of the other judges are not doing weddings at all.
Okay. Thank you. Civil forfeitures, I can't even say that, laws. I see that you really, it wasn't on your radar and you didn't think it was a big concern. So I kind of like to get kind of your take on what you think about it and what your experience is.
No, I just want to clarify. It wasn't on my radar, and I didn't know it was such a concern. I'm not saying I'm not concerned.
No.
About it.
No. Yes.
Yeah. Um, private property rights are pretty important. there's a fine line in doing that, and I think that's probably a process that can be squared away also. Um, if it's the fruits of the tree or the in the evidence process, um, and you got it pretty solid on probable cause versus tangential. I know of some properties, it just not in the forfeiture, but just in the realm that I've dealt with as a judge, where you got a property's community owned, and one of them does the problem, and so the property is taken. It's jointly owned by the person that didn't do anything. And so while I appreciate it doing that from somebody that's a criminal, or most of the evidence is all sitting there and shows it, I'm not a fan of taking it all of it away from the person that didn't do anything to it. So I think there's going to be several of these things that are in this process that are like that, that you just probably need to clarify and weed down and explain better for those what is happening and why.
So I'm gonna
Sure.
tag into that one.
Yeah.
We still got a minute or so. One of the problems that we've had is that the assets have been taken prior to an individual being found guilty,
Sure.
and they've been sold off
Mhm.
and go into the county coffers.
Mm-hmm.
That's not due process,
No.
and that's not
Mhm.
actually legal.
Mhm.
But it's been happening. It happens all over the place. Um, and I don't think that's something that your court would be involved with anyway on any part of it. So just
Yeah,
little
no,
clarification.
I agree. It should. There's no way it should be sold off independently. The property's innocent. The person's innocent. They're proven guilty. Once they're guilty, feel free. But until they are, that don't. It's not your property to sell. Just because you have possession of it doesn't mean you have ownership of it.
Yeah, that's right.
For sure.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask two questions about defining some terms you used in
Sure.
here to make sure I understand the acrostics here.
Mhm.
first one's simple. What is a judicial center of excellence? You said that was one of the metrics you wanted to be graded by in the end.
Yeah,
I
no,
like the fact
that's
that
one
you've
of those
got some
top three
metrics.
things. Yeah. So it's an actual certification that's given by in conjunction with the Texas court system and the
Mhm.
Supreme Court and the judicial branch on metrics of processing speed, your case efficiency, in addition to access to the public for information, and areas where it's an honest assessment of, hey, where can I do better? Because at the end of the day, we're public officials that are elected, and there's nobody that has jurisdiction over us.
Yeah.
And so you've got to have to want to have somebody come in, look behind the curtain, and say, hey, that could be better.
Yeah.
and be okay with that. And that, at the end of the day, I'm not worried about that at all. There's
Yeah.
oftentimes we're doing something, we think we're doing the best way we know how, until somebody's like, hey, there's a better way. And like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm very receptive to that. And largely that's because I came from business.
Right. Yep.
There's always, you're always looking for somebody to give you a better way to do something.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So that's what that's about.
Okay, great. The other question is, I started reading through the experience that makes you the best candidate on
Sure.
that question. First thing out of the box, I had a question.
Uh-huh.
You said evidence by OCA reporting,
Mhm.
and tell us what that is. But first, let me finish the question,
Yeah.
then I'll give it all over to you. You said I've closed 106% criminal and 108 civil cases year over year through August 31st.
Mhm.
So that sounds like a math error to me, because how do you get 106 and 108? So explain to me.
How you, that
Yes,
distinction? Sure,
uh-huh.
absolutely. So OCA is the Office of Court Administration.
Yeah.
They're the ones that we're required by law to report our data to. They're the data clearinghouse for all courts in Texas. So you can go to that website that's publicly available. It's government run, and say, hey, what do things look like in this court?
Yeah.
Pick one, JP in Waller County or Odessa or whatever. Specifically on the 106 versus the 108%, my caseload is broken down into the whole court,
Yep.
and then it's broken down into civil cases, criminal cases, and juvenile cases. And juvenile cases don't have a consistency to them as far as how many come in and so forth. But on civil and criminal, those numbers are big and they're large. And I've closed on the civil side only, I'm at closing 108%. On the criminal side, I'm closing 106%. So the reason I didn't make it an average of 107, which would have been the easiest thing to do, is because we're going to have this year, we're going to have 28,000 criminal cases and roughly 7,000 civil cases. So it's not a fair comparison to say 107%.
Right.
Or-
How do they end up with over 100%?
No,
They
meaning
count
year
it?
over year. So if last year
Yeah.
they closed 100 cases in August, this year I've closed 107.
Got it. So that means you're above
Yes.
the limit from last year.
Yeah.
Got it.
Mhm.
Okay.
I'm-
But you haven't even been in a year.
Correct.
So how do you do that year after year if you haven't been in a year?
Because I use last year's statistics. I use a judge that had been in office for 6 years
How can you use their statistics for your accomplishments?
because we've had more cases filed
In less than a year.
in less than a year.
Yeah.
We're going to have 6,000 more cases filed. We've had a bigger caseload and we have less staff when I started. So if we both have 8 hours in a day, 40 hours in a week, and this number of cases to come in, I've been able to close. And I did the delta on the math. We closed at least the same amount. I closed more, or closed, or disposed of, adjudicated, whatever you want to call it. Some of that, yeah, that's how I got the math. Yeah, I'm happy to talk more about that if you want to. The nuances of how we come up with the stats.
Yeah, it's not logical to me.
Okay.
So you stated that you were in this position starting in January.
Mhm.
Was that the first time in this position?
Mhm.
So what qualified you prior and what qualifies you now?
Sure. Interestingly enough, running for public office qualifications tend to come from the voters. You can say you're qualified all day long, but if they don't believe it, or if they do believe it, it's part of the magic of running and marketing. So our court is the original court of jurisdiction for all evictions, commercial and residential. It doesn't matter how much money is involved. It's just about possession on the eviction side. You can get back rent, but that back rent can't exceed $20,000. I think we've done 1,450 evictions so far this year. And having been the past president of the National Association of Residential Property Managers in Houston and a residential real estate broker and so forth, I helped contribute to the laws that were written and the contracts that are used, how they're in there. A lot of the civil cases, almost all of them are going to be breaches of contract, which having been in small business and negotiating residential real estate contracts and commercial real estate contracts, as well as the contract with your vendor for your printer, all those different things, you get to learn the experience of reading, knowing what you're looking for. Additionally, and probably what made me good at those things in the private sector was a lot of the training that I had, and specifically law school, being able to read and spending a tremendous amount of time on contracts and case law and property. So,
Thank you.
Larry?
One of the questions was CSPOA says civil for you kind of covered that a while
Mhm.
ago. Is there anything else you'd like to say about that?
No, just the people are innocent until proven guilty, and so I understand sometimes the concept of seizing it, selling it, and disposing of it is totally different. There just needs to be a process that's apparently more clearly defined for the rights of, okay, this process is going to be held for X amount of time, and if we don't have an answer, it's released or it's moved back out into a different stage. But people know their metrics, the way the law is written. I can learn more about it. I don't do a lot of that. Um, there are assets that we seize. Um, I have done assets meaning seized. I've got a seizure warrant on my desk right now, actually, for an animal that was cruelly treated. So, is the owner been convicted of it? No. Is the animal been cruelly treated? Is there probable cause or sufficient evidence that the animal has? Looks like there's a lot of it that is, but the animal's got to be taken for the animal safety. But it's still that owner's dog. It's still that owner's cat. And so there's highly nuanced, and I'm appreciative of the fact that is there, absent a vet's recommendation or somebody that's clinically allowed to know the difference between these two, these can often be subjective questions, and not always the easiest answers. But I'm sensitive to it.
Thank you.
Okay. So with your productivity, the 106, 108%, it sounds like you have a pretty busy docket there. What does an average week look like? You know, Monday through Friday. We've seen in the past that some judges have taken some time off, whether it's Friday afternoon, Friday morning, or even more. So, what does an average week look like for you starting on Monday?
Sure.
In 2 minutes or
Yeah,
less.
at 2 minutes or less. Yeah, no. Monday start for me at about 4:30 in the morning. I got Bible study on Monday mornings from 5:30 to 7, um, and then it's I typically will head into the courthouse after my quiet time, every day, and kind of see what's going on. It's I have my docket's given to me prior the week before, so I know what's coming up. It's been actually prepped, not just the numbers, because I always know it's way in advance what's happening, but literally start reviewing a week in advance what's coming up for the next week. So if there's anything that needs to be deep dived into, hey, this is a topic I don't know about, they may not come prepared. I need to make sure I'm aware of a particular issue that may show up in front of the court.
Does that start at 8? Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, no, courthouse opens 8 o'clock.
Okay.
Courthouse is open 8 to 5 every day,
Okay.
except for Friday, and it closes at 4. Um, we did have we had the courthouse is open through lunch, so we're open actually more than 40 hours a week. Um, so simply because we're open 8 to 5, minus the 1 hour on Friday.
Okay. Are there certain type of cases that you handle during the week?
Sure. Um, so typically we have criminal on Mondays and Tuesdays.
I'll say it again.
Criminal.
Criminal.
Mm-hmm.
Tuesdays.
Mondays and Tuesdays. That's been the historical and civil on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And Fridays is the catch-all for emergency hearings and follow-ups if you needed to reset something and come back, and more of administrative, see what the next week starts to look like as well. Um, it's I have 2 courtrooms, and so there are times that I've got the district attorney in the large courtroom on a criminal pretrial day, and I will have a smaller civil docket in the small courtroom, and I'll be in one courtroom over here, and then they'll pull me out of that. I'll take a recess in between cases and go sit in for a hearing for one off on criminal, and then when that's done, I'll go back over. So there are times that I've got two bailiffs, two sets of clerks on different sides, um, being able to use the court more efficiently because there's two places to do it. Yeah.
Okay, so you're pretty full. Would you say over the last 11 months, you're pretty slammed up back to back?
So yeah, no, I wouldn't say I'm using it back to back like that all the time. But because the other part is shrinking the dock. The dockets are so far out in the future; they're being put on there 90 days in the future. At usually is typically the minimum for certain things. So I use it as much as I can, but also we don't have a conference room. You know, if you think about a business, businesses have conference rooms. Those are our conference rooms. Is the courts, and so we can actually have staff meeting in the small courtroom while there's the DA is going on the criminal side. We can have a civil meeting and talk about what's going on in our presentation. So yesterday we had the Houston Apartment Association come in and give us give my clerks a training and on the new laws that are coming out on evictions come January 1st, what that process is going to look like. So um, that's very important, and they need to be able to ask questions and everybody kind of understand what is this going to look like. Well, this is what we think it might look like, but come January 1st, we'll find out once it goes into practice. I hope that helped.
Mike? Oh, yep.
Pass the mic. Yep. Just don't drop it.
It's okay.
Bad dad
Look
joke.
for 'em.
Sorry, in the interim, real quick. What's a judge's favorite drink? Just ice.
That was cold.
It's horrible. It's horrible. You got to find jokes that are great for Sunday school.
So one of the questions was how many days are you going to take off from the bench per year? And you talked about, you know, you said 15 to 20, and then you talked about all the time for your real estate. So are those days going to be taken off also for real estate?
No, I'm sorry, I was not clear on that. I'm not doing the real estate continuing education. That's how I've done things in the past.
Okay.
So I'm not doing, I'll do the minimums required to keep my licensure, but I'm not going to be growing the same incentive ways and wanting to learn as much in that realm as I will be doing. I'm going to take that zeal and intensity and shift it from real estate to the court system.
Okay. And you say there's 80 continuing hours of education required for your first year, and you've done over 120. How many hours are required after the first year?
20.
20. Okay. So there should. So I'm guessing that with the 15 to 20 days that you're going to be taking off, it's not just going to be continuing education. You're going to be out and about.
No, that's for me. That's also going to be some continuation on some vacation days too. You know, time away from the office and family. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'll use the days I need to. Whether that's 9 one year and 28 the next year, it depends. When I see a class that I like, I'm gonna go take it. It doesn't matter for me if if I can make it fit, I'm going to, and I'm not going to worry about it because I'm trying to get the court to move. I work more than the court does. I can assure you of that. The court's going to be more efficient if I'm more efficient. If I'm more efficient because I'm learning more, then I'm not worried about literally me being in there because the system on some level can run without me as far as getting the orders drafted, ready, dockets prepped, and then I can come in and make decisions and move forward on them. So it was a unique question and it makes sense from y'all's perspective, but from the world that I came from, I never counted my days off. I counted my productivity and what I was able to get done. And so just because I know I'm going to be working way more than the minimum on the job, but it's a question that makes complete sense to ask.
Well, the main thing for that is making sure that somebody's in the courthouse.
Oh yeah,
and to be able to get the cases processed.
absolutely. Somebody will be in the courthouse. If I'm not there, somebody's still in the courthouse. The courthouse is moving. The court's does not close. Unless there's the county holiday, or I kind of look at, there's no way to incentivize employees in government. it's impossible to say, hey guys, you've done a great job. Let me give you $100 bonus. Well, we've all got a bonus. It's the end of the year. We found more oil. Doesn't work that way. The more efficient we are, the more they expect, which is totally fine. And I'm a hard driver that way as well. And so it's finding unique ways to be able to keep people happy in a job where my clerks are averaging over 1,000 cases per person for the year, um, and some of the other courts are averaging 500. Both those people get paid the exact same, different courts. So um, yeah, there's people will be working. Don't worry. And when I'm not there as judge, I typically will get a visiting judge to come in so the docket continues to prep. Um,
Who appoints them?
Nobody appoints them. I I typically call Judge Cagle, Jack Cagle. He's the person who I call, and they get it has to be approved by the county judge.
Okay, go in Harris County then?
He was.
Yeah,
Oh,
he was
He
here.
was, yeah, judge and commissioner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was
Right.
Harris County Court of Law, I think 4 judge for about 12 years, and then he was county commissioner in Precinct 4
Right.
for I think either 8 or 12 years also. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's see how many questions I can squeeze in.
Sure.
All right. So you said you're still running a business?
So put you on time.
Yes. You're still running a business?
Uh-huh.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So what business is that? And then how are you managing that and also managing the court?
Yeah, no, it's my property management business. I have a general manager and staff, and so I'm the broker and owner of the company. I'm not in the day to day. I'm there for, um, well, I was going back and forth with my general manager last night at 10 o'clock, and had a phone call about something that came up yesterday. So it's that's how that runs in the background. Is I'm not in the operational day to day. I'm not in the business development side of it, but I do own it. So
Okay.
it's out there. I have 2 different brokerages. Another one is the Mustard Seed Realtors, and that's kind of dying on the vine, so to speak. That was me. The night before I was appointed on January 7th, on January the 6th at 4:30 in the afternoon, I was still making lead calls and trying to develop the business because I didn't know if I knew I was going to stand up and ask for the job on Tuesday, but it doesn't mean that I was going to get the job on Tuesday. So I was driving that all the way to the very end, knowing that it may not have worked out. So
Okay. Which is a great lead to my next question.
Mhm.
Getting appointed to the position, give us a little insight on how that transpired, who talked you into it, and I'd like to have a little more detail of,
sure,
what happened there.
sure, no, absolutely. Um, Commissioner Wheeler and Judge Beasley, you'd have to get to talk to them more about how that back end connected. Um, but they said when Judge Beasley and Commissioner Wheeler let me know that he was considering being his chief of staff, they said this will create a vacancy. Would you be interested? And I said, let me pray about it, talk to my wife, and I'll let you know. And I said, I assume there'd be other people that'd be interested also. I don't know if they talked to anybody else or not, but that's kind of how that came about. Um, I've known I've known Rich for Commissioner Wheeler for many years. Our kids go to school together. Um, when he started running for commissioner, he was probably, or when he was talking about whether he was going to or not do his homework, he had been talking about it for maybe 3 or 4 weeks, and somebody's like, "Oh, you need to go talk to J Mac. He ran for that job." And they're like, "What?" He goes, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Yeah, he ran against Nowak in 2016." And Commissioner Wheeler came up to me and was like, "Hey man, why didn't you tell me? I didn't know this about you. Our kids, we got 3 kids in crossover grades at school, and we see each other at birthday parties 15 times a year. how did how did I not know this?" I said, "Because it's not who I am." I said, "That's not where I was. That day that ship came and sailed and sunk for me." um, I always tell people, God called me to run. He didn't call me to win. And that's a unique distinction that's very real. And I'm glad that he said no on those prayer requests, because it allowed me to buy and start up a full scale property management business, which I was already doing, but just scale it up, only to know that was going to be a lot of what I did in this court, from an experience standpoint.
And that was actually some of my question, but my question was
Sure.
more around conflict
Yeah.
of interest with the real estate company.
Mhm.
How would you address that? Because really there could.
I've already had it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. So when I've had a case that where I was sought for advice by one of the parties prior to me getting the job, prior to being appointed, a case that had developed over a year ago. And they had called me as a fellow broker saying, hey, what would you think about this? How would you do that? What do you think the contract? This is what. And so I gave them some advice. And lo and behold, that case ended up, because at that stage, it wasn't a case. At that stage, it was a decision on a deal, on a business deal. And as it went sideways, it ended up in court. I recused myself from that, called in a visiting judge, set it on a separate trial docket date, long in advance, so everybody knew that I wasn't going to be there. So I want there to be zero concept of conflict. Now, do I know people in my court? Absolutely, I do. I wish I didn't. It'd be a heck of a lot easier if I didn't. But that doesn't change for anybody. But I've even been on the bench where I figured out when I called the case up, and I looked at the parties, and I'm like, wait a second, this is my client. This is my client from a year ago, and this is a tenant that my property manager put in the company while we managed the property. And I said, hey, sorry for the inconvenience today, but it wasn't until I got the next layer deep that I realized what was going on. I'm like, I need to recuse myself right now. I'm going to be transferring this case to Judge Spikes in Precinct 2. Thank you guys so much. Good luck.
And I appreciate that, but I think, there's still a kind of a background that could happen.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is. You're absolutely correct.
The question that I was interested in asking you about, we asked, you're an active member of a conservative group,
Mhm.
which ones, how long, and in what capacity?
Uh-huh.
And your answer, you said you're a member of Crossroads Baptist, familiar with the church. Our church was planted out of that. Bible Study Fellowship for 16 years, 15 years as a leader. And just talk a little bit about your commitment to Christ,
Sure.
how that impacts how you do the job.
Sure.
And I will say, as I have not done Bible study fellowship. I consider myself a committed Christian because I don't have the time for the homework. It's a serious commitment.
No, it is.
So the fact that you've led it for 15 years tells me a lot about the time that you spend on it. Talk a
Mhm.
little bit about what motivates you from that perspective of your life.
So I had the not unique, but very fortunate blessing to have two parents that were committed Christians. Um, and you see things as you grow up. You see connection points, you see observations. My parents didn't do Bible BSF until after I'd actually gone to college and had moved out of the house. But they did it because it's hard to sometimes get a BSF group in Hot Springs, Arkansas, because they need size and numbers. But no, I've even when I was living in Washington, D.C. and was somewhat nomadic until you figure out where you get married, you hunker down, you're trying to develop a professional career. I would always use Christian talk radio and being as an anchor point. Um, Ed Young has always been broadcast nationwide, as well as James Dobson, Focus on the Family, and Family Life. All those American Family Radio have been on the air for a long, long time, and so they were my church when I didn't have a church because I lived somewhere for a semester and then they're somewhere else. Nevertheless, my faith is very important to me. It's when I ran for Boys Nation at Boys State and trying to prepare on how to get other guys, I came across Matthew 6:34, and it turned into a life verse, which is, "Don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." And that comes right after 6:33, which is, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God." Most people know that one by memory. Uh, Obviously, the commitment for me is very real. I took a year off when I realized between when my first kid was going to go to the student program, because I knew that I wasn't going to quit. I wasn't going to step away when I started taking my children, and so I knew that was going to be a 12-year commitment, because it's easy to step away when you're attending. It's much harder when you're in the leadership and accountability. And everybody needs accountability. And for me, that's good accountability. Is doing that. So now I take all 5 of my kids. So they go with me on Tuesday nights, and it's pretty fun.
So I have a question
Mm-hmm.
about your question. it says, should the state license barbers, lawyers, why not?
Mhm.
As a hairdresser that was trained as a barber
Mhm.
at one time in my life, why would you not want barbers to be licensed?
I don't care if barbers are. You asked if they should. And so
Okay.
there's a difference in distinction. I'm totally fine that they're licensed. I think that there's some basic minimum metric standards of understanding capacity, and your hair is a lot more closer to healthcare than many things are, and it's intimately personal. Um, I know that my my lady I go to is not licensed as a barber, so she doesn't trim my beard.
Oh, okay.
So I'm aware of that distinction
Mm-hmm.
and how it matters and how disease can be transferred
Yes.
from the combs and so forth. I get
That's
that.
why I asked
It's
the
no, it's the
question.
sterilization of the scissors. It's all of that. I
Yes.
completely
Yes.
understand it. No, in that capacity, absolutely. When they were clippers and you're in the army, I don't know if the guy clipping the hair in the army is licensed.
It's something to
They're
think about
using number
too.
5 guard and they're going all the way around
Mhm.
it. It is what it
Right.
is.
Okay.
So as a distinction, I can appreciate why barbers and anybody that's going to be that close, it's got to transfer.
Yes.
I get it completely.
Okay.
Maybe if it was, I guess, general contractors, another one, they're not licensed. There's no licensure requirement for that.
Yeah.
Should they be? Great
Interesting.
question.
Yeah.
They used to be, but they're not anymore.
There's a lot of people that, a lot of occupations that have recently been regulated so that they have to have it.
Mhm.
And the way that it's looked at to most of us, it's just another avenue of income.
It's revenue
Mhm.
So
source.
it doesn't have anything to do with their qualifications.
Mhm.
Because if you get certified as a welder, you're certified as a welder. You
Mhm.
don't need to have the state authorization for you to have a business or to work. You don't have to pay them for it. You've already paid for it. But this is a lot of the stuff that's taking place in the state today.
One of our questions was,
5 minutes.
are the United States and Texas constitutions living documents? Please answer in the context of progressivism versus originalism. And your answers, would you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. Okay. And make sure. They're living documents. I'm pretty sure that's what these aren't numbered. They're living documents in the fact that they can be amended and changed. So I want to make sure I've got the right question.
Right after the Paxton question,
Okay.
right above the Barber's question.
Recidivism. Right above. Okay. United States and Texas Constitution's living documents. Please explain. Progressive versus original. No, they're not living documents per se. The fact that documents can be amended by ratification by electorate in Texas and ratification by the states U.S., then yes, they are. But this brings us back to judicial philosophy questions. They aren't living documents from the bench. So it's not my job to modify what the Texas Constitution says. It's if that's going to be done, there's a process and a procedure, which makes it living. But I think it's very important that judges don't interpret what's not written. The laws are there. The Constitution is what it is, and so there's also precedent in law, which it, some of them go too far in their answers, and so I'm very sensitive to not giving something that's not there or not taking something that isn't there.
So, J-Mac, with being a Republican, it's very curious. I like to
Sure.
ask a lot of candidates this question. Where do you stand on closing the primaries in Texas? Why or why not?
Closing the primaries, meaning you got to register before you get there, as opposed to because right now your party affiliation is declared each time you go through the primary. So people can opt. You can be a Democrat one cycle and a Republican
You
another
have to
cycle.
declare at the
So
primary whether you are a Democrat or a Republican.
that's what we have
and
right now. Yeah.
We have an open primary.
Yes, but the second that when you walk in there and you say you're a Republican, from that point forward for the rest of the term, you are a Republican.
So-
You can't change it the next time if they're runoff or anything else.
Okay, so you support closing the primaries is what I'm hearing. Is that
And
right?
I guess what I'm asking is, would you want that on January 1st? People need to go make a declaration, or can they make that declaration 10 days before the primary starts 8 days, or does it have to be what they did last time? That's part of the question is, where do you lock that person down on being able to change their mind on, I don't like any of these candidates, so
Well,
I'm going to vote
I
in a
mean, you have
different
to
direction.
declare as a Democrat or Republican when you register. You can register with some other party too, right?
Uh-huh.
But when you register to vote, you register as a Republican or you register as a Democrat
Sure.
or some other party, right? So if when it comes to the primary day,
Mhm.
should you or should you not have to follow how you registered?
Well, this gets right back to, what does the Constitution say? What do does it say that we have to register, or is that a requirement we'd be putting on these people? It's a um, I do I like the fact that Democrats can absolutely influence? No. Welcome to our system. There's a lot of people that are uneducated that vote, and they're educated people, but they're not educated on who they vote for.
Agreed.
And so I'm not sure if their influence should be counterbalanced by a Democrat that's soft, or a conservative Democrat. Because I've got friends that are blue dogs and from the deep South, and they'll be a Democrat their whole life, but they vote Republican primaries. So are they a Democrat or are they Republican?
I think we got time for the last question.
Hope I answered. It wasn't trying to be.
Who's next?
I'll do it.
Bring them.
Sorry.
This is fun. Yeah, I know. I enjoy it. At the end of the day, this doesn't bother me at all. It's I love
So
lively debate.
we're up against our next
Sure.
interview coming up. Tell us about leadership Montgomery County
Mhm.
and what kind of impact that's had on you.
So I've been in a couple of different leadership roles. Leadership Montgomery County is one of them. The Texas Realtors Leadership Program, which is the Texas level. The National Association of Realtors Leadership Academy, um, which is basically 22 people out of 1.8 million that were eligible. It's incredibly hard to get into, incredibly hard. Um, and Leadership Montgomery County was one of those things. I did freshman leadership organization at Baylor. Leadership Montgomery County for me was a way, obviously for business reasons, but at the same time, it helped me learn more about the county, learn more about other people that were in the county, find like-minded, um, other, I don't know, hustlers, business people, men and women that are driven by a pursuit of excellence and to do their jobs good. And that's when you find those people, you feed off of each other, because you have conversations at higher levels on what to do. You're not just going through the routine. You're trying to make it better. So Leadership Montgomery County was great in that fashion. The program has changed a lot since when I went through it. I've gone through it the second time in the inaugural Leadership Montgomery County Masterclass. Um, I was really excited about that because the pool of available people to do it were those that had already done leadership in Montgomery County. So it's a shrinking pool of intensity of intelligence and drive. And so I really, really enjoyed that because there's a lot of I got to meet and know some people that I did not know, who had been involved. So learning your leadership style, learning which what's your spirit animal, what's your which, are you a cat, are you a dog, are you a D or an A or a C, whatever, those different things, and everybody's got a new test. Those are fascinating to read because I go back and look at them from time to time over the years to see how I've changed or how the questions have changed, on how I may or may not have answered them. But they do give you insights to how you think. I think many times the questions are poorly worded.
Okay, thank you for that. Now's the time where you can take up to 5 minutes if you want to wrap up.
Mm, y'all know what you're doing. It's kind of that simple. This isn't your first rodeo. Um, I'd love your support. I've got to ask for it. I want your support. Um, I think it's critical.
Tell the people you want their support.
People of Precinct 3, I want your support. And that's not just Commissioner Precinct 3. That's Constable Precinct 3 and Justice of the Peace Precinct 3. For those that are listening, just because they want to see if they want to watch all the videos, my precinct goes from I-45 in Harris County and Spring Creek is the center line. Go west to 2978. Go north to the Fish Creek Bridge when you get to Wood Forest. Go east, starting at Lake Creek until it merges with Sanderson at the West Fork, and follow the Sanderson River on the east side over to where it touches 242 at the aggregate farm, and it goes all the way down to Harris County. So if that's you and you didn't realize it, I want your vote. I'd love for your support. And pray for me if you don't mind. There you go.
All right, sounds good.
There you go.
Thanks for coming in, for answering the questionnaire, and good luck on it, on your campaign.
Sure.
Thanks, sir.
Can I ask any questions? Can I ask you guys questions?
Sure.
Okay.
You want to camera roll?
I don't care. You can have.
No,